Well, I know that obviously one game left, but what your players have had to endure a lot this year. What do you think this season has taught them? If you could pick out one thing that they've had to deal with.
It has. There's been so many things, Jeff, that you go through, and I don't know right now that you could pick one. If I were to pick one, I think it's be grateful for the opportunities you do have, and the people you're with, and find ways to try to make the most out of those moments. But there's been so much that everyone, we live our own little world, and this football team and in athletics, but everyone, not just across the country, right, worldwide, is faced at so much, and there's endless things to take away from it, and but I think I still think you can find a way to you have to learn and grow from it, and you have to find a way that somehow you can take many things away from it that you're better for having gone through it.
Go to Colton.
Well, you mentioned it in the post-game interviews, but Jack Dunn's really stepped up for you guys in the last few weeks. And talking to other players, it sounds like that's who he is in practice and who he has been for a long time, just starting to translate a little bit. What have you seen from him in the sense of, continuing to put the work in and continuing to get better, even when the opportunities weren't there earlier in his career?
I think it speaks to a few things about Dunner. One, kind of his core makeup. He's a guy that loves the game, and a guy that puts the work in and enjoys putting the work in. And I think also a guy that trusts enough in himself that if he does put that work in, and that it will pay off. And it's a great lesson for many, because if you approach it and put the work in, when opportunity does come your way, you will be as prepared as you can be. Where I think some people and maybe parts of human nature are that, they're kind of waiting for their opportunity, and then they'll put the work in. And for many, it's too late then. So I think it's consistent with who he is. And so all of a sudden, when it does come his way, and he's ready for the opportunities, and which he has certainly been, and I think he also then can fall back and trust on all the work that he's done and enjoy it. I think he's having a lot of fun playing, and a lot of that is because of he can trust all the work that he's put into it, that he is ready, and still you continue to grow, but. He's been awesome to be around.
Josh.
Paul, when you guys as a staff flip on the Wake Forest tape, do you think that they in the ACC play a little bit different of football, like just the overall makeup of the teams play a little bit different style of football than you guys do? And is that something that's kind of helpful or exciting to see when it comes to bowl time and you guys play teams from different conferences and kind of have a little bit something different that they're bringing?
I think there's certainly some, there's similarities, and kind of I think there's a carryover in a lot of the basics of football, but absolutely there's there are different, there's some differences that I think, to your point, or in your question, is a good point, and that there is some differences, and so it makes the preparation, you've got to hone in a little bit more and take note of different things, and so I think there's probably a pretty good balance there. That a lot of the game itself comes down to and when you're playing well, comes down to fundamentals that you could cross over to any conference, any team. But then absolutely there's certainly when you watch a whole season, there are differences. And I think that is one of the things that makes it fun when you're playing good teams from other conferences.
Go with Jake.
Hey, Paul, I know that the wide receiver room hasn't had all the healthy bodies, even though I know that's, I think, par for the course for every season where there's injuries or players unavailable. But how have you seen Alvis Whitted, work with that position group in his first year, albeit with a pandemic and not having spring ball and other things? And how have you seen him and the other players grow and develop too?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed working with Elvis and appreciated his approach and kind of his the demeanor that he's had with it, and it, you start listing of all the guys that comes in and the time that he was, he started, it's been very different, and yet despite that, I think he's been really, really good for this, not just the receivers, but for our staff and for players at other positions. So I'm really appreciative and you're pleased with all he's done and how he goes about doing it, and it's been a strange year for everyone, but I think certainly when you're talking about coming in and meeting, working with a new staff, new players, there are some more challenges to it, but hasn't that hasn't been an excuse and really hasn't been a problem.
All right, Paul, I know this is your favorite question, but how does it look for getting guys like Kendrick Pryor and Danny Davis and Jalen Berger back for this week?
Yeah, it's I think we got a chance. Jalen's been able to practice, so that's been good, really good. And KP and Danny haven't done much.
That was up for Coach with one more from Jeff.
I'll make it an easy one. Joe Rudolph said something interesting about Berger the other day. He said he's a freshman, had to isolate for 10 days, and that's really hard for a kid away for the first time. But I'm just curious, kids in general who have had, sorry about that, kids in general who've had to deal with that, have you talked to them about what that experience has been like, how difficult that has been for the kids who've had to isolate?
Yeah, I mean, you do try to, touch base with them and go and I think they, each one's different, right? And it's there's been a lot of challenges, and that's why you admire the guys, not just what they're going through, but how they choose to go through it. And, no one wants to repeat what's happened, but there are a lot of takeaways that we can draw from it. But, I think even just for all of our freshmen, Jeff, it's been a, very strange freshman year for them. And certainly it is for everyone. Don't get me wrong, but, they are, I think they found a way to bond with each other and kind of help each other through it. And when you are isolating, that's some guys handle that better than others. Some are, kind of comfortable in that a little bit more naturally, and others, you truly need to be around people. So it's, I think for each guy, it's been different, but I don't think it's ever easy.